This is a presentation of WCTV, all volunteer community access television from the Township of Washington.
No longer am I the frightened little child you can bully with nightmares, intrusive thoughts, and various compulsions. I can look you in the eye and see you are no more than a coward that turns people's minds against themselves.
You may have heard of Tourette syndrome. You may even think you know all about it. But it's a complex disorder that affects many lives. Even though Tourette syndrome is more recognized today than ever before, it is still greatly misunderstood. So come with me on a tour of Tourette's and uncover the truth about this disorder. It affects many people in many different ways. And this is my life, my story, my Tourette's.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Larry LaFury, and welcome to Exit 168, WCTV's show that we put on once a week. Tonight we have a very special show. We have Stigma-Free. We're going to get into what that all means. It's our second show. But before I do that, let me introduce the guests that we have here tonight. To my left is the Mayor of Washington Township, Janet Sopkowitz. Daniel Ferrin is to her left, Tom O'Donnell, and Peter Junta. These are our guests tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about, Mayor, we're going to talk a little bit about the overall idea of stigma-free. What is it? How it affects people's lives. And I know you did a lot, you're doing a lot of work with Tom on it. Just explain to people what we're talking about here when we talk about stigma-free.
Thank you, Larry. Good evening, everyone. Very excited to be here this evening and would like to thank WCTV for giving so generously of their time to promote communication with the public on various issues. As you know, the Township of Washington has been designated as a stigma-free community. And that was due to the support and initiative of Tom O'Donnell and Desiree Morgan, who got me started on this. And we had a show last year, and we were able to give out a lot of great information about stigma-free, being a stigma-free zone, and making the public aware of mental illness and things like that. Fortunately, after we had our first show, Dan Ferron, who is sitting next to me, wrote this film. It's called My Life, My Story, My Tourette's. And I have to tell you, it is very informative and inspiring. And if you get a chance, you really should try to see it. It's really an eye-opener, and it gives everybody a lot of information. And we're very lucky to have him here with us this evening. And also he gave a presentation at our township library last year where we learned a lot about how this information gets out and how it's going in New Jersey. So at this point, I would like to turn it over to Tom O'Donnell to give us some information, specific information.
So again, I want to thank Larry and Janet for having us on the show. This is our second time on the show. We just finished a show that came out from Bergen County through the Stigma-Free Commission, a 4-minute video that you can see on YouTube, which came out with 4 different segments of people talking about Tourette's, depression, anxiety, ADHD, and a number of other mental illness and programs that we offer, not only in Bergen County, but here also on the website of Washington Township. We have a stigma-free website that Janet has provided us on her website that you can go to and get any information you need, any help, if it's Care Plus, if it's New Jersey Tourette's Association, or if it's Bergen Promise. Again, to Janet's point, the Stigma series we had at the library, we had 6 speaking engagements, which were very helpful. And I think the best one we had so far was with Danny, with his film. We got a lot of positive feedback. And it's great to have Danny and Peter here tonight to talk about it.
Now, basically, so that people get a pretty good idea, we lay a pretty good foundation now. When we talk about stigma-free, because there might be a number of people out there that didn't see our first show, what we're basically saying, and I want you to talk a little bit about this, is to treat mental illness as an illness that can be treated as you would have cancer, heart disease, a broken arm, broken leg, bad back, bad shoulder, and not to have a stigma associated with that we might have had in the past, correct?
True. I think what we did with Desiree and Janet's support was the speaking series we had at the library was extremely helpful. I mean, I don't know if you remember, Janet, we had a couple, Larry, that came all the way from Boston, because they don't offer that in Boston, any kind of education. So they drove from Boston because we had this program, they found it on our website. So I think the key is the education of people and letting them know that, you know, it is an illness. It's controllable, most of it under medication, but the key is for people to be educated.
Well, how do we educate them?
Yeah, educate them by going to websites like Janet provided, by reading up on Stigma-Free Zone. We have a website. The county has their own website. Care Plus is very popular in the area, Bergen Promise, New Jersey Tourette's Association. You can go to any of those websites and they will give you all the information. But the key is your own town, within your town and within the schools. Educating the kids in school that if someone has anxiety, that not only the students are educated, but the teachers are educated how to deal with the student. Just like if someone's having a bad day or an illness, or someone has cancer, like they may have a bad day, like what do you do in that situation? So if you have a student ticking, what should that teacher do, or how can that student provide help for him or her?
Let me ask you, how difficult it is to get people who are afflicted with mental illness to step out from the shadows and ask for help and go to these websites. Is that a difficulty now?
I just wanted to mention, after the first show we did, you yourself mentioned to me how many people came up to you, right, and said they were feeling better about talking about it. They had some themselves, and now that we're recognizing it and people are seeing it, as you said, a regular illness, they felt more comfortable saying something about it, and this way they'll get more help. And all of us, by doing a show like this, really opened up a lot of minds.
They know they're not alone.
They know they're not alone. That's very important.
That's it.
And Peter is here also, who is the director and producer of this movie and knows a lot about this, and through his work has been able also to kind of wake people up to this. And I think we really did a great thing by having that show.
What you just said, people waking up.
Yeah,
that there is something out there. Let's talk to Daniel now, who this movie here that Janet showed, I'll put this up again over here so people get a pretty good look at that. Ricky will get a nice and close shot of that. When were you first started? First of all, you have Tourette syndrome?
Yes.
Can you explain to people exactly what Tourette syndrome is?
Tourette's it's a neurological array of different, uncontrollable tics, movements, sounds, grunts, could be anything, body movement. They come without warning, and they can last a couple days, a couple weeks. It's worse when you're younger, you know, and it usually shows itself about anywhere from 5 or 6 years of age is the norm, and can subside. Usually will subside immensely as you get into your teen years. Not always, but the norm is that I was on medication from 6 to 12, experimental in the 70s. So it's not like today where there's a lot more knowledge of.
Do they have medicines now that, I don't want to say cure it, but alleviate it, lessen the symptoms?
Yes and no. I mean, it's so much time has come, like I said, from when I was younger, and just I haven't been on meds since I'm 12, so I can't. Oh yeah, I'm off meds since.
And may I ask you how old you are now?
I'm 46.
So that's pretty good.
It's amazing. Yeah.
It is.
But again, everybody's different, so you know everybody fluctuates. But you know, there's more knowledge today, of course, with you know, in general with the medical field. So some things work well for certain people, and some do not. I think it's always gonna be somewhat trial and error. Mm-hmm. It's the brain, we can't figure it out. It's a complex, you know, it's complex. So
now this movie here, My Life, My Story, My Tourette's.
Yeah.
What possessed you to make this movie? What was the driving force here?
I came up with the idea almost 12 years ago, way before I met Peter and mutual friends that introduced me to Peter. My mother always told me to never use my disability, which I've never have, you know, to make people feel sorry for me. And one day it came up with like a vision, and I said, I want to use it, but in a positive way, to spread, you know, my story. Yeah. And we had no clue until we started filming the amazing people that we would end up meeting, Tom being one of them. You know, hundreds of people who either have Tourette's or have family members who have Tourette's. And we traveled all over the country.
Well, how did you meet Peter?
Through a mutual friend.
We'll talk to you in a minute.
Yeah.
Sure. But how'd you meet
I met Peter through a mutual friend, probably somewhere in the last 8 to 10 years ago. So I knew Peter for a couple of years, but not on the level of filming and doing things like this.
And you broached the subject to him?
I did. We were at a wedding, a mutual friend's wedding, and he had...
At a wedding?
At a wedding, yeah. And Peter had done his...
Very apropos, at a wedding.
Yeah. Hey, you know. And had done the bride and groom's, you know, nice video on how they met. And I said, I like your work, you know. And I said, I have an idea for a film. He goes, yeah, we'll talk about it later. And right after that New Year, it just came out of nowhere. It was we have this opportunity. We drove to Georgia, almost straight through, for a Tourette's convention or conference rather, which we started filming him, and we learned. You know, he was still learning a lot about, you know, doing something on this level, and it was amazing. It took us almost 3 years of our lives, you know, along with taking care of family and working and doing our normal thing and surviving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't mind, Peter, before we get to you, I'd like to show about a 1:30 clip of the movie that you produced and directed and wrote. You did everything to the movie, correct?
Yeah, I wore a lot of hats.
You wore a lot of hats there, yeah. We're going to show a 1:30. We'll come back and have a few questions for you, okay? Let's see, we have a little clip of this movie, My Life, My Story, My Tourette's.
My friend and my doctor as a child, Dr. Arthur Shapiro, who I feel I owe a lot to in my life. He's passed now a couple of years, but what a wonderful man. They call him the grandfather of Tourette's because he had so many breakthroughs or so many breakthroughs through himself and even his wife through books and through literature and research for Tourette's. He published articles concerning the research of Tourette syndrome and made the groundbreaking discovery that TS is in fact a neurological, not psychological dysfunction. His research sent shockwaves through the medical field, and its findings helped pave the way for modern treatment. To understand what exactly is going on, let's take a closer look at the source of the issue.
Peter, when you started, was there any difficulty? How many movies have you made and things have you done before?
Of this Length?
Yeah.
0. This is my first attempt at a feature-length film.
Shorter ones. I want to get a base of what you've done before this year.
I have a varied portfolio from wedding work to children's theater to sports highlight photography, a whole range of.
So now this is completely different than you ever done before.
It's not completely different. I like to think that they're all kind of interrelated. They're all basically telling a story. So I approached it with that mindset that I'm here to tell a story. I guess this is a little bit more of the informative aspect of it. So in that sense, it was very different.
Now, what were the challenges you had to face over the 3 years working with Dan?
There were a lot of challenges. First off was it's a completely self-funded film. Me and Danny funded it ourselves. It cost us probably around $15,000 over the course of 3 years, which is incredibly, it's non-existent budget as feature-length films go. But so that was one of the challenges, is coming up with funding. The second challenge was what do we want to cover in this film, and then how do we cover it? So finding the people to interview, finding the topics that we think we can explain in the film at length in order to inform viewers. That was the second challenge. The third challenge was definitely working with someone with Tourette syndrome. As you know, I wrote the film, but I used the word wrote very lightly. It's sort of a guide. I wrote kind of a guide for Danny to speak and use to explain the storyline of the film. But with this Tourette syndrome, it was very difficult to get it kind of in one take. It took us several takes on a lot of the parts. So that was definitely the other challenge.
Yeah, I was noticing that before we went on, we were looking at this clip, one of the clips here, and we had someone that I know. We used to have coffee with him in one of the shops in town. Not the bagel shop here, John.
I was just going to say the bagel store.
Not the bagel store here, somewhere else. Dave Levesque, and he is a podiatrist. He's a doctor.
Yes.
Now, when we look at these things here, if you have Tourette syndrome, it doesn't affect the mental capability. You could become a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, an architect.
Right.
Oh,
it has nothing to do with intelligence.
That is a big part of making this and having this. The idea was, if I can do what I'm doing, if I can make a film, or if I can do film and television acting, you can do anything you want. There's always enough room for inspirations of people to say, if I can do this, you can do it.
And Larry,
You're
even
capable.
though this is a documentary, it's a biographical documentary on Danny, we wanted to showcase other success stories and other difficulties of other people who have the disorder.
Did you have any problem trying to get people like the doctor to come up and give their story? Everyone just wanted to talk.
Kind of fell out of the sky, ironically, which is
that was one of the easier aspects of making the film, was getting people to participate. You would think with something like Tourette syndrome, they'd be a little bit camera shy or not ready to kind of share their story, and in a lot of cases that does exist. But we actually, when we interviewed Dr. Levesque for the film, it was kind of a budding joke. Well, Danny's known as the mayor in the parts that he
Pennsylvania.
He lives. So when we had mentioned that to Dr. Levesque, he got all excited. He's like, that's what they call me. So we noticed a trend that people with Tourette syndrome, instead of being shy, oftentimes are very outgoing and outspoken. So
how many hours you had of take that you had to break down?
Oh my God.
in hours, I couldn't even count. But I literally sat there and watched, again, because we had an idea of what we wanted to cover in the film. We didn't know what we would be able to cover. So I had to do all of these interviews, trying to cover the different topics with different people. We interviewed Danny's old teacher, Dr. Levesque, people at conferences,
Family
professionals,
members.
Yale professors, doctors from Overlook Medical Center. So once I interviewed them, I sat down, I watched every minute of film, and I took notes on what it is that we covered. And then I came up with the script, if you will, or storyline. And then I had to sit and kind of invent my own screenwriting notes. And so it took probably a year of just that.
It's a tremendous amount of work, because everyone here that's doing it, all the volunteers here, especially the people in the control room,
Yes.
have an understanding of what you do, because we edit.
Right.
And we will edit a 2.5 hour, maybe 3 hour football game, and we get it down to an hour and 50 minutes.
Right.
You've edited, you have 10, 15, 20, 25 hours
at least.
At least.
3 years
Probably
worth
more.
of material.
And you get
Now-
2 minutes of
Yeah, you have,
Yeah.
and the film is about an hour and 42 minutes of my
45
memory.
minutes.
Yeah.
Hour
Yeah.
45
Right,
minutes.
45 minutes. So there was a lot to cut out, a lot to put in. You didn't cut anybody out. Everybody got in to talk, right? How did you determine what gets in, what goes out?
Well, it was topic oriented. I wanted to make sure that the people watching the film are going to pull something out of it, if not everything. So I watched each interview that we had, and if the person covered a topic that I thought was important for the film, that person was included. I tried to include everybody that we interviewed because they wanted to contribute to part of their story, and I want them to be part of the film. But of course, the original take of the film was actually over 2 hours, just over 2 hours. So I wanted to shorten it a little bit. So there were a few people that were removed just for time constraints.
I think we have another clip we'd like to show, and then we're going to come back, and I want to talk to you, Tom, about mental health and the whole gamut, what's going on here in the state of New Jersey.
Developed a great friendship with one of my teachers while there. His name is Joe Orlando.
You always, had a smile on your face. You were really, I think, socially involved. I think with the student body. I think you made friends at pretty much every level. I was happily surprised to hear from you. You were certainly memorable, And when you emailed me and said, "Hey, Mr. Rowe, this is Danny. Do you remember me?" And I think I emailed back to you, and they said, "How can I forget you?"
Tom, let's talk a little bit about mental health. We talked about stigma-free, mental health. Things are going on in the state. It looks as though, and I was speaking to you, that there might be some cuts in mental health.
Yes, but I just want to go back to one comment you made
Okay.
before about stigma. People say, well, this person or this young man or this lady has a stigma and maybe they're not highly educated. That's so false. It's the opposite. People with Tourette's, ADHD, OCD, research will show they're extremely intelligent, extremely successful, and highly focused on something. They become engineers, they become doctors like Dr. Levesque, and they become very successful. So to your point, the stigma, a lot of people, that's why I keep saying, I keep going back, is education is key. People say, well, he has Tourette's, or he has OCD, or this little girl has anxiety, so we can't talk to them. But just see how they feel about that. Live in their shoes for a couple of days, or the parents' shoes for a couple of days. But these kids and these young adults and people like Danny are highly intelligent. It's the opposite. They're very smart. So I just want to bring some clarity to that, because people always say, well, maybe they're not that smart. They're stupid. They're not stupid. They're very smart kids, very smart adults, very high functional. Like Janet said earlier, one of her students just got accepted to Harvard. So there's a perfect example. You're going to Harvard and you have a mental illness. That's a great success story.
I think you just explained perfectly what stigma-free would be. You just
So,
explained it very well.
So-
Now talk a little bit about the mental health generally in the state and even in the country.
Well, right now in New Jersey, there's a federal mandate that's going to be effective July 1st of 2017, where close to $7 million is going to be taken out of mental health. So, how does that affect people in the state of New Jersey? Like over 7,750 people that are in the program now will no longer be in the program. They won't be able to go into the weekly clinician or psychologist to get treated. They won't be able to get medication treatment. And out of the 7,500, there's 3,500 new patients that will be coming on board on July 1st. They won't be able to get that treatment either by a clinician, psychologist, or medication. So all this funding is being cut out in New Jersey. So the programs that we're running, that Janet has helped us here in Washington Township, anything we can do, go to your local Congress, your politicians, go to Trenton, support it. Bergen County is great. They go down to Trenton as much as they can to fight for these cuts. And that's what you have to do, because you don't want to, cut $7 million out of mental health.
No, you don't. And you were saying, if I'm right, July 17th is an important date that's coming up?
July 1st is
July
Probably a
July
budget
1st
date.
is the budget date of 2017 when the cut's going to go in effect.
Right, that would be the beginning of the state budget.
Budget,
right?
yes.
So we don't have that much time. It's
Time.
almost May 1st now.
Yeah.
So we're looking a little more, maybe 40 days. We're looking at something has to be done between now to stop those cuts from going through.
So a lot of the other stigma-free towns have rallied together. They've gone down to Trenton, they've gone to hearings, they've gone to the Bergen County Executive and get his support, and we got to continue to do that to get the message that, you know, we can't have this cut. Can't have it.
Well, maybe you could come back and let us know basically what happened, and we'll do a stigma-free
Sure.
third show. How's that? We'll do a third
We'll
show.
do a third
We'll check
show.
That'd be great.
And Peter, one more last thing with you. Do you have anything in the hopper that you're looking to do down the road, whether it's stigma-free or something else you're interested in?
I'd love another opportunity to do a film like this. I don't know what topic. Again, it's right now I'm focusing on growing my company.
And your company is?
So my company is Promodio Studios, and we operate in New Jersey, and we do photography and video for various different.
Now, if somebody wants this, yeah.
How does somebody get this if they would like to?
If somebody would like to get a copy of the film, you can visit www.mytourettesmovie.com.
Okay.
It has its own website, and you can order straight through there.
Say it again so Ricky gets it. We'll put it up later after the show. We'll let it in. But
Sure.
say it again.
It's www.mytourettemovie.com.
MyTourettesMovie.com.
Yes, so you can go there, you can order it directly from there. Otherwise, I can be contacted at peter@promodiostudios.com. That's PRIMODIO studios.com. Just send me a message, an email if you want to get a copy, and we can go that way.
Okay, that's very good. Now, finally, we'll let you have the final word here, Dan. It's
Yes,
hard
Dan,
to
you're
believe.
the
Usually
star.
I have the final word. We'll let
You're
you
the
have
star.
the final word. They probably passed out in the studio back there. No, we're still on. We're good.
Yeah.
If you had something to say to the people watching out there about Tourette syndrome and about Stigma-Free, what would you like to tell them?
Everybody needs to just be themselves, no matter what your issues are in life. Where no one's perfect, we're all human, and we need to treat people more just like human, opposed to the labels that we have abused, as far as I'm concerned. So just, if you see somebody with Tourette's, or you see somebody who's different, don't be afraid to approach them. Come up and introduce yourself, and let that person know that, remind them that they're human, and
But you care.
that you care. Yeah, that is very important. So we just need more of that, and that's pretty much it, Larry.
Thank you very much. You were very
Welcome.
eloquent. That was
Thank you.
much better than I could ever said it, which most everybody can do better than me.
Larry's got the gift of gab.
Well, there's another word for it, but I'll tell you off the air. I want to thank all of you for coming up and doing a show.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you, Larry.
And we'd love to have you, Tom. I said at the first show, I think this is very important. Janet reminded me, I think I told you when I saw you in
Every
the
Saturday.
bagel shop.
The bagel shop. Every Saturday.
A couple of people, and I was really, it was...
Or at the
I was
yard,
taken
right?
back.
At the yard, that's
At
right.
the yard.
They come up to me and they said how much they enjoyed the show, and it meant a lot to them. One person
They-
told me
they
how much
did.
it meant. There was someone in the family, and they were going to try to get in touch with Janet and go to the library. So again, you have an open invitation to come up again, and we'd love to have you
Yeah, I'd love
back
to come back.
again.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
great, and anytime you want to come and help us, and you talk
Excellent.
about your shows that you're doing, especially work like this, you invited also, Peter.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you much. And Mayor, what can I say? You're getting better than Frank Cole. I'm going to do with you. He sees this, he's out, you're in.
Yeah.
Frank Cole, John Frank Cole is my partner. I do all my
Okay.
sports with
They
him.
work together, and they do a lot of studying ahead of time. And we're very proud of you, by the way.
Yeah. Well, that's another story you and I'll talk about later. I want to thank all of you for coming. Again,
Thank you for having
you're
us.
more
Thank you,
than
Larry.
welcome to come back again. So for the entire gang here at WCTV, all the volunteers, for our wonderful guests, this is Larry LaFurie saying we hope you enjoyed the show. We'll see you next week on Exit 168. Good night, everybody.
After the retreat, a podiatrist with Tourette syndrome by the name of Dr. David Levesque had gotten wind of my tour and wanted to share his story as part of it. He is one of the few Touretters who has coprolalia, and I was interested in knowing how he handles a medical practice with that condition.
We give them a brochure, basically, and the brochure is kind of a combination of a get-to-know Dr. Levesque kind of a thing. So it's a brochure that basically entails who I am, a little bit about what my background is, where I'm from, where I went to school, kind of a little bio, short bio. But in that same brochure, there is also a few frequently asked questions and some Q&As about, Tourette's.
I wondered if he had any hairy situations with patients in his office because of his Tourette's.
That it's not too often, but I certainly have had, a person or two that is, not quite understood or didn't want to understand or didn't take the time to really ask the right questions and be understood. And, and they walked out, an experience that I had in my practice a number of years back, where I was working on a female patient. I was taking care of somebody, and I uttered a few, obscenities, which I didn't really mean, and I think one of them was bitch word, and I think she took that personally, even though I know at that time we had done the same kind of education, but I guess it really got her upset. And